Tua Tagovailoa absolutely buried Brian Flores. He recently did an interview with Dan Le Batard when they asked him about his experience playing under Brian Flores, and he just straight up went in on this dude. He gave him a haymaker to the head, one-shot knockout. He said, imagine if you wake up any morning and I told you that you suck at what you do. Every day you're hearing that you don't belong, you shouldn't be here, you haven't earned this. And then somebody comes around and tells you you're the best fit for this. And he pretty much called Brian Flores a shitty person. Brian Flores came out and he had to accept accountability for what went wrong with Tua and his relationships down there in Miami. And this statement by Tua has absolutely ruined Brian Flores' reputation. It's going to be extremely hard for Brian Flores to ever get another head coaching opportunity after what Tua just came out and put on them with these pipe bombs that he dropped. And with Brian Flores coming from that Bill Belichick coaching tree, it's not surprising that he pretty much was bullying Tua, because that's what this is. Tua is not soft. You can't play for Nick Saban and be considered one of the greatest quarterbacks in Alabama history by being soft. If you can play for Nick Saban, you can play for any coach. And there are coaches that tend to be really old school, like your Tom Coughlin's out there, where they normally are cussing out players every practice. They always have a lot of things that aren't really that nice to say about your performance. And if you've ever played football, we've all had coaches like this where all they have to say is negative things, criticisms. They never have anything to uplift you. And for a lot of these old school coaches like Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, their way of motivating you is just by talking shit to you every time they see you. And with the new generation of players that are now in the league, you can't coach them that way anymore. They get in their feelings, they get hurt, and you take them out of the game. And with Brian Flores, just the way he went about coaching Tua was all wrong. There's a difference between being a tough coach like Nick Saban, who is tough on his players because he really wants the best for them, and just being an a-hole to a guy that you just don't like. And Brian Flores never wanted Tua. That is well-sourced, well-documented. He wanted to draft either Justin Herbert or Jordan Love, is what a lot of rumors speculate. And when the Dolphins said that they wanted the tank and they basically tried to bribe him to sell the season and he wouldn't go for it, with you being in his situation, you would think, okay, we were bad all this year. They wanted me to tank and, we were terrible anyway. And now we got the opportunity to draft the franchise quarterback that I want, just for you to be overruled by the other people in the organization and say, no, we're taking Tua. This is who we want. This is why, if you're Brian Flores, you didn't want to tank in the first place. Because if you're going to tank, you want to get the quarterback that you feel is ideal to have the success that you feel the team can have with him underneath the helm at center. But instead, with the owner and the other guys in the front office wanting Tua so much and you didn't want him, you pretty much have to fall in line or pretty much just sign off on your designation. And Brian Flores was put in a tough situation that not too many people are talking about, because you have this quarterback that you never wanted in the first place, and the guys above you just say, go ahead and make it work because this is who we want. So I can understand why there was some resentment on the side of Brian Flores when it came to Tua. But as a professional, you got to be able to put your feelings aside for how you may feel about somebody. There's always going to be people that you have to work with that you don't really like. But you got to be able to find a way to compromise, to do what's in the best interest of the team, to get the most out of that player. And you just can't bully a guy, berate a guy because you don't like him. When you tell somebody that they don't belong, do you not know how big of a shot that is to somebody's confidence? Imagine you being a top 5 pick. You've dominated in high school. You dominated at Alabama just to get drafted by a team's head coach who tells you that you don't belong in the NFL. It's kind of like, what the hell, man? And Tua, to me, is not soft. He has every right to feel this way. Because what was the point of drafting me if every day I come into the meeting room, all you plan on doing is just berating me and telling me how terrible I am? Bill Belichick did that to Tom Brady for decades, but Tom Brady was wired differently. Most players don't have the mental fortitude that Tom Brady has. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's been coaches that I've had when I played football, high school, middle school, and Pop Warner that I didn't like, and I went back at them sometimes, because one thing you're not going to do as a coach is disrespect me. You're not going to make me feel less of a man than what I am. And Brian Flores crossed the line between being a tough, hard-nosed coach and just being disrespectful. To tell somebody that they don't belong after they worked all these years to get here, you invested a top 5 pick in them, by the way, it's just spitting in somebody's face. And if I was Tua, I would have handled this situation way more differently than what he did. I would have told him, hey, bro, if you don't like me this much and you think that I'm this trash and I don't deserve to be here, how about you effing trade me then? That's what I would have went up to Brian Flores and said. I know that wouldn't have been the most professional way to handle it, but there's a difference between being a professional and just being a flat-out bully. And that's what Brian Flores was to Tua. And I'm one of those people that always calls Tua soft. Not because he's a nice person or whatnot, but because in big moments and big games, he never really shows up that much. But to just constantly tell somebody they're not good enough, we don't want you, you shouldn't be here, it sets a bad precedent for you getting another job in the eyes of other owners, other GMs, because now every time you interview for a head coaching vacancy, they're always going to ask you about the Tua Tagovailoa situation. And Tua is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's not top 5, but he definitely is top 10. And he has played at a way higher level under Mike McDaniel than he ever had under Brian Flores, which also makes him look really bad because it makes him look like he's inept at being able to hire the right people to run his offense. And it also makes it seem like he's somebody who just doesn't know how to get along with his star quarterback. And when you drive somebody that high early into their career, you being that hard on them, that negative, and you berating them, bullying them like Brian Flores did with Tua, is how you destroy a young quarterback's confidence and you ruin their career. For a quarterback to succeed in today's NFL, he needs stability on the coaching staff, and he needs an organization that believes in him, that's going to boost his confidence after he has a bad game. You don't want to hear somebody saying, man, you suck, this is why we shouldn't draft you. How the hell is that going to make you play better? And from Brian Flores' standpoint, why would you ever think just constantly crapping on a guy was ever going to be the way to help him play better? What, you think that talking shit to him should motivate him to play better? All it does is piss you off even more and make you just absolutely get despised. And there have been players who have spoken out for the Minnesota Vikings in defense of Brian Flores, but there really is no coming back from this if you're him. And I wouldn't be surprised if we never see him become a head coach ever again after a situation like this. When you are this toxic to a player, it's a really bad rap to have on your resume. And it reminds me a lot of the situation that Eric Bieniemy has been going through the last couple of years. Everybody's saying that he deserves to be a head coach. and then he gets to the interviews and he just completely whiffs on them because he doesn't do a good job of relating to players. He's not a relatable coach, and he's somebody who is just so old school to the point that he's out of touch with how to coach up the new generation of players that are entering the league. You can call these new age players that are my age, 22, 23, 24 years old, soft all you want to, but you still have to be able to coach these dudes and get the most out of them if you want to be able to win. It doesn't matter if you think this generation is soft. You got to figure out a way to adapt your coaching style so you can win and still be employed. Tua's not soft to me for this. I would have did a lot more worse if I was him. I just would have completely aired out the dirty laundry. You are a crappy person. If I'm doing everything I can to win, I won at Alabama. I played for Nick Saban, the greatest head coach, not just in college football history, but in the history of football itself. If I can play for him, but I can't play for you, there's a problem with that. So I side with Tua with this. This is really damaging to Brian Flores' reputation. I don't see how he can come back from this.